All righty. Greetings, everyone. Hello. Hi there. Welcome. I just wanted to say hi to the technical crew back here, and Mary and Christine. So, without these people, I'd be standing here naked, doing nothing. I'm Dr. Scunziano, better known as Dr. Maria, or anything else you'd like to call me, and I welcome you all. Is there anyone here who's here for the first time, not been here before? Just a couple of people? Oh, okay. Welcome. Welcome, Om. Without hesitation, I will just begin. I'll begin speaking here about a kind of a very controversial thing or things that I feel is necessary to discuss. And I know all of you are interested in hearing about. If you don't already know a lot of the information, anyone here not know anything about what industries are doing to you today? I guess you have a hint, an idea. Something is not right in the air, right? Something's not right in the air, and something's not right in the food, something's not right in the supplements, the drugs, the water, you name it. I don't think there's a thing that has not been tainted or done something done to that we would probably regret after doing. And I just know that I'm, along with you, I'm in this soup of chemicals, pollutants, and so forth. And it's important for you to know, if you haven't already done your own homework, it's important for you to know that basic food, drug, and technological substances information can be bad for you. And I'm just going to, I'm going to be the bearer of the bad news. Can be, but we can mitigate, we can change, we can make it better. A lot of people are totally unaware of what they're taking in their daily menu, and or on whatever they're using or wearing and so forth. Now, I do have to tell you all that I have done my homework in radiation. So please, if you have a cell phone, which I think most of you do, please put it on airplane mode and or turn it off completely, not just vibration. Unless you have an absolute need to have that phone on, and if you do, maybe you want to put it like off to the side over here, and it'll go off in case you have an emergency that you need to attend to. So I'm going to really dive deep to some, well, I'm not going to dive very deep because I'll drown, quite frankly. I'm going to dive into some of the highlights of what is going on in three of the most prominent industries. There are other industries, but we need to look at things that really are impacting us on a continuous basis. So with the help of Natalia, my assistant, we'd like to amuse you at the same time we abuse you and give you a lot of bad things, information. So anyhow, no, it won't be that bad, but we want you to know some of these things here, again, are very relevant, okay, very, very relevant here. So I kind of put the N in parentheses, in case you didn't notice. Just take a look at that second line there. We have to start with realizing that it's not about just living a comfortable, peaceful life with no worries, okay? We're going to have our challenges, and they're right in front of us. Whether you're sitting in front of it and you turn it on, or you reading on it from your palm, or you're listening to it from something in the ears, you're going to get information and or, I would say, quite a bit of false information or propaganda. Okay, and that's where we're going here. So these are the industries that I'm going to talk about, and the interrelatedness of them. Okay, so it just seems that, you know, we are eating technology, we're eating drugs, and so forth. It's all consumption. And without knowing what we're doing or not having a real picture of what we're doing, it's really not, it's not a good thing to not know what's going into your body. And I tell everyone, please ask questions of whomever, and or if you're going to look at a product that you're going to purchase, you need to know what that product is. Okay. And if it looks wrong and you can't read the label, or it's very difficult for you to pronounce the words, you probably don't want to use it. But how many people actually do look at labels? And I brought something with me here that's pretty, it's pretty interesting. Okay. You all use these kind of products? Okay. So this is one of those things that should have been banned when they first even thought of putting it on the shelf. I will send this around to you. And if you can read it with your specs on or without, have fun, okay? Take a look at what's in here. And we'll start off with Elizabeth. She can take a look. So, you know, have fun with that, but keep one ear open while your eyes are looking. Okay. So these industries are inseparable. No way, shape, or form are they separable at this point, you know, these industries. Okay, now I'm not talking about you in your home. If you live off the grid, you live in a home that you've built, has no wires, no anything to it. I mean, you know, you might need a light here, maybe a battery. But if you are completely in your own land without any connections, then you're kind of, you know, you're the odd one out, right? But I like odd out. I like the odd ones out, because I'd rather be there too. I'm not quite there. I mean, I'm in the woods, but I'm still dealing with technology and other things. So if you are living completely natural, au naturel, you wear the tree leaves on your groin. You know, you bathe yourself in whatever water that you can get from the rains or the lakes or whatever. I mean, that's a different story. The average person is not there, not doing that, and is connected to a system that's going to basically hurt you and I. Okay. Okay, so it seems that we need all these things, and they are all interrelated. Okay, and in a few moments, I'm going to pause because I want you to see something that would be a little video that needs to be seen, so that you're aware of something about the food you're eating. Okay, so when you have a product, and there are probably about 2,500 new products that come out on the market every year, boom, I mean, that's a lot. But if you start adding that up year after year, the numbers are really like crazy. And back when people were living in the 1920s or 30s, how many products were on the market? And I know some of you may be coming from that era, but I'll tell you that there weren't many. Because, I'm about that age. Yeah. I was born in the 1930s. Yeah. I just look good, But that time period, we have a very few products on the shelf. And now, it's innumerable. You cannot count. If you wanted to do inventory, you'd be doing it for years trying to figure all of these products out. It's crazy, unlimited, and big food, that is the food industry at large, will do everything. Food, manufacturers, companies, they will do everything they can to push their products right into the FDA and get them passed quickly and get them passed into the markets, right? They don't waste time. And these are lobbying people. These are people who push. If any of you know what lobbyists are, they're very pushy people, right? They make things happen. They will make this drug happen on the market. They'll make this food happen on the market, whatever, this technological product, this cell phone, it's going. It's going because we're pushing for it. So the FDA has basically said, okay, as long as it appears to be safe, okay. So we have this thing called the generally recognized as safe designation that came probably in the 1950s, where I think the FDA said, you know what, we're getting bombarded, so we're just going to kind of let it go. It looks good, doesn't kill anybody outright, okay, let's pass it through. That's the GRAS classification, and many food products, as many supplements and pharmaceutical products, go through the same thing. So the chemical industry, that is, most of your personal care products or any industrial products, liquids and so on, and powders and this and that, capsules, you name it. So, and the other thing is, we've got food manufacturing people or drug manufacturing people who end up in FDA positions, back forth. So food manufacturing going into FDA, seriously? They're going to push, and somebody's going to be accepting at the FDA, a person who's used to work for the company. So, and that's happening with, particularly with drugs, the drug companies. There's a little conflict of interest there, The FDA needs to be watching and regulating, not just saying, okay, with the red carpet, come right in and we'll bring it through for you. Okay. So, got to think about that. And that's exactly what's happening. Okay, does anybody know what this is? CRISPR? Not a clue, huh? That's just like CRISPR, it sounds like, it tastes crispy. No, it has nothing to do with that. Clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats of genetic information. This is a technology to modify our food. And it's been in existence for a long time, okay? And I want you to be aware of that. I want you to just take a look at this film. Can we roll that, Sean, or whoever's doing? Okay. Take a look. It takes about six and a half minutes to roll. And FYI, and I want you to see it. I want you to, you can share this information
7 reasons
with your families.
why gene editing is dangerous and unpredictable. Major biotech companies want to release new gene-edited GMOs into our food supply and environment without regulations, oversight, or labeling. They are pressuring governments around the world to eliminate all safety testing requirements for plants, animals, and microbes created by new genetic engineering techniques, such as CRISPR. They claim that gene editing is precise, predictable, safe, and natural. This is false. There are at least 7 reasons why gene editing is dangerous and unpredictable. 1. cutting the wrong place. The popular method of gene editing, called CRISPR, introduces at least two elements into the cell: a genetic scissors that cuts the DNA, and a guide which tells the scissors where to cut by finding a specific target sequence in the genome. But the genome often has many other places with similar sequences. Consequently, the scissors often cuts unintended or so-called off-target areas. 2. Sloppy repair. Wherever the scissors cut, the cell's own repair mechanisms get activated to repair and rejoin the ends of the DNA strands. Scientists have no control over the repair process, which can inadvertently remove or insert short or long sections of DNA and even rearrange chromosomes. In some cases, chromosomes in dividing cells are shattered, with pieces rejoined in a haphazard order, called chromothripsis. It's a phenomenon associated with cancer. 3. Mixing genes. When the cells reconnect the genome, contaminating pieces of DNA floating in the petri dish can be added. For example, random genetic material from goats and cows, including retroviruses, were permanently inserted into the genome of gene-edited mice. Gene-edited cows ended up with genes from bacteria. 4. Mutant proteins. Genes carry information that can instruct the cell to produce proteins. Gene editing can direct scissors to cut and disable a gene so it stops producing proteins. This procedure was used to create genetically modified mushrooms, engineered to not turn brown when sliced. U.S. regulators did not require any assessments or labeling of the mushrooms because they believed gene editing was reliable and safe. Years later, however, research showed that gene editing fails to disable genes about 1/3 of the time. In some cases, the partially disabled genes encode new mutant proteins which could be allergenic or toxic and could alter the organism's biochemistry. 5. Insertion damage. Increased allergens or toxins can also result from mutations created when the gene editing scissors are inserted into plant cells. Insertion can be done using a high-velocity gene gun or through specialized bacteria that infect the cells. In some cases, scientists insert genes that then instruct the cell to build the gene editing tools. All of these can cause unpredictable and potentially dangerous mutations. 6. Mutations from the process. Gene editing is conducted on plant cells grown in laboratories. Once gene editing is completed, scientists generate many distinct copies of the genetically modified organism through cloning. Both the process of growing plant cells and cloning are known to create massive damage to genomes, resulting in hundreds or thousands of mutations. 7. Epigenetic inheritance. Protein production in gene-edited mice was inadvertently altered. These unpredictable epigenetic changes were passed on to at least 10 generations. An article in Nature entitled "CRISPR Gene Editing in Human Embryos Wreaks Chromosomal Mayhem" describes 3 separate studies which showed that editing affected large regions of the chromosome. There were DNA rearrangements and large deletions of several thousand DNA letters, and large segments of the chromosome, and sometimes the entire chromosome, were lost. Nature reported that many of the findings can be missed by standard assessment methods, and that the results heighten safety concerns about heritable genome editing. The evidence so far is that gene editing does even more damage to genomes and is even more unpredictable than standard genetic engineering. Unintended mutations in gene-edited plants can alter patterns of gene function and consequently their biochemistry. This in turn could result in increased production of toxins and allergens. This, more than anything else, is why gene-edited plant products must be regulated and labeled. When gene-edited GMOs are released, unpredictable changes in nature's gene pool can be passed on to all future generations. Gene editing is now so inexpensive and accessible, humanity can irreversibly alter the DNA of countless species. This new technology requires greater responsibility and care. Let's safeguard the nature of nature.
Thank you. Can we? All righty. Okay. Any questions or thoughts? Yes.
When we alter these, or genetically alter these products and then consume them, and it's clearly passed on to generations, does this cause birth defects?
I'm going to tell you yes, it can cause birth defects, alterations in gene material or genetic material means anything is possible, absolutely anything. It can affect the embryo at various stages. It depends on, the actual consumption or the load at a certain time. You may have, if it's a pregnant woman, you have, critical time periods, particularly the first 3 months, so the first trimester is really a critical, very critical, I would say more so than the last trimester. It's a critical time. Women need to be careful. And again, it could be a combination of the sperm and the egg and so forth even before there is an implantation, so the conceptus can have influence of both. So sperm and egg can carry genetic material that's altered, which would make a fetus potentially altered, and fetal demise is very common, so that the pregnancy might not carry through after the first trimester. Now, first trimester, FYI, first trimester miscarries and or fetal loss is relatively common. It's common it has been even before we really got into this technology, but unfortunately, we're seeing a lot more of it. And so in answer to your question, yes, there can be genetic defects, birth defects, that can either cause a demise or a living organism, a human being that can have altered brain power, altered heart power, hormone dysfunction, limb changes, anything and everything is possible. So, yes, sir.
Now, I read some time ago that the EU is not buying any GMO product coming from this country.
Uh-huh.
Now, who's behind all these changes?
Yeah, okay. I'd like to name names, but I don't think I think I'm going to get myself into hot water if I start naming names, but there are people who are involved, yes. And the EU, yes, is not taking from the US. They know, again, there's knowing what's going on. Again, there's a lot of industry tactics and manipulations and so on that are weaving in and out of this country. Some of the countries are getting, along well with the US, but not all. And I'm sure you all are aware of that. But there's a lot of shenanigans that are going on. And this technology, it is accepted in many places, and others, there are regulations and rules and restrictions on what can be done with food, with human tissue, with animal tissue, and so on, and even technology. That usable technology that you're walking around with and all that. So there are rules and regs in many countries where there's restriction or there's limitation, but in the US, there are virtually no restrictions. And that's a problem. Okay. So, and again, any of you have any other questions, feel free to ask me about the materials moved in the genes and so on. It's a little complex, but some of you or many of you may know how the genes work. But it is a complex subject, and I can't spend all my time talking about that right now. But I thought that might be an interest to you. So anyhow, so we have here shortcuts in the food industry, foods, additives and so on, stabilizers, this and that, make the food look, smell better, just various things to make the food not look clumpy or bumpy. Now, back in the day when milk was delivered to homes or people milked a cow, there was a separation of the fat from the protein, right? Many people realize that, and if you do any milking yourself, you know. So homogenation, pasteurization, all that stuff ended up because people were getting sick, and we want the milk to look better and so on. So now we have that whole process. So it's part of the whole food industry to homogenize and pasteurize, take all of the organisms out of the milk, and make it look better. And then take the fat out, or skim it down, trim it down, or add sugars and other things to it. So there's so much manipulation. And if you look on the shelves for various milks, it's overwhelming. They've taken everything and milked everything. I'm not a milk advocate. I'm not a dairy advocate for many reasons. And but the oat milks and the nut milks and the seed milks and the rock milks and the leaf milks, you can milk anything. It's up to you if you want any of those. So revelation of contents, actual contents. Don't have to do it. So that might surprise you that they don't look at every little thing. You would think. It's like, how could that pass? How could that have passed through the FDA? Yeah, how does it make you feel knowing that, the watchdogs, I guess, went to sleep? I guess permanently. Okay, so most of the food manufacturing right now is working with artificial synthetic material, okay? The genetically modified organism products, heavily refined foods, and so on. By refining, I mean they put it through so much so that it doesn't even look like it originally was. You can't even recognize the food. The wrapping, the packing, the plastics, the metals that are just naturally being pushed into these foods, or nobody's really looking at how much metal's going into that, the aluminum or the lead or mercury. Do they care about mercury going in your mouth or mine? Okay. So most people don't know this, and they're not telling you either. So if you have salt on a table at some buffet, restaurant, whatever, it has no iodine. And iodine is an essential nutrient. Now, is there a restaurant that may, because it's a conscious restaurant, like here we would have it at a Conscious Cafe upcoming, that's different. I'm just telling you that in general, no iodine. So don't think that you're getting iodine from that salt. And most salts. And, people are eating Himalayan, Celtic salt, so on and so forth, which is better, of course, but it only has so much iodine. There's not a whole lot. And iodine is really something that has been kind of, brushed by the wayside. It's not a big deal to the medical profession anyway. It's like, oh, are you allergic to iodine? We won't put the contrast material in for your CT scan. Okay. But iodine is an essential nutrient. It is essential it must be taken in the diet in some way, shape, or form. Okay. And to have very little is a problem. Our breasts, our thyroid, our brains, our prostate glands, these are some of the top glandular or organ systems using iodine. Breast cancer, FYI, usually has a low iodine content in the breast itself. Person who has a high iodine content in the breast is less likely, if ever, suffering with breast disease. So FYI. Iodine is a very important nutrient. You need it for your thyroid gland to regulate the body. So really need to have an iodine source. And my favorites are the seaweeds of the world. I like seaweed or sea vegetables. I'd rather call them vegetables. They're not, weed is making them sound lowly. So we really should appreciate that. So anything from the ocean, we should look at its content and consider it, is it right for us? Right? So seaweeds. So I call it unlabeling. They don't generally, in this country, do not label the food as genetically engineered. There are other countries where that is done. It is a must. It is part of their policy. You will have genetic labeling, genetic modification labeling on the product for all to see. But that's not done here. And I don't know if it ever will be done unless people rise up and say, this must be done. Food lobbyists and so on are very powerful people, as you may know. Lobbyists, they're those pushy people. And when they want something, pushed, and they don't want to do something else or don't want this to happen, we don't want labels, they don't happen. They don't have that on the label. So it's up to us as consumers. Speak up. Do what you have to do, get to your politicians, because that's where it's happening, those politician people, unfortunately. It's not like you can just walk into the FDA and say, you need to put GMO labeling on the food. You need to put genetically modified or whatever. And they'll escort you out the door. Okay. It takes numbers and it takes, making the connections. So we need to join in together. Speaking of that, which I just recently had gone up to Tallahassee, went with some of the members here of OHM, and we were trying to push the legislators to pass a bill so that we no longer have to deal with any mandates here. So I was there, we drove a long way, and I told the legislative representative from our district here, I said, I came a long way and I didn't come for nothing. And you better pass this bill, So, so there was, again, I felt I was doing my civil duty. I have to do that, and I would like to do it more often. It's just, these things do take time. For me, it's taking a whole day. Driving 8 hours is a lot. But I needed to do it. I had to do it. I felt it was necessary. So if people would get involved, just go, participate, go there. You need to go. You need to be part of this whole system. If we want a democracy, if we want to protect ourselves, then we need to act together. We need to work together. Okay, can't be just one person, 2 people. Okay, so here are some of this is the fun stuff. Okay, some of the detrimental ingredients found in processed foods. Now, propylene glycol, not to be confused with polyethylene glycol. That's something that you probably have heard in the news, and you kind of know about that these days. Propylene glycol is another compound. It is, a stabilizer. It's holding things together, and so on and so forth. But it has been called the allergen of the year. And if you look at labels, and it could be in cosmetics, stabilizing those type of things, in drugs, and various other items on the market that are applied to the body, it's pretty ubiquitous, this substance, and it can be used Because it's been deemed grass. Has nothing to do with that stuff out there on the ground. Okay? It's deemed generally recognized as safe. But there's a spectrum of safety here. There's safety and then there's not safety. So that's one. And again, I can't spend an inordinate amount of time on each one, but you have, you can certainly do your homework. You can take a look at all this stuff here. BHT. Now, I don't know about you, but when I see the word toluene in a label, what does that conjure in your brain? Does anybody know what toluene is? Sounds like benzene, right? Paint thinner? Content in paint thinner? Okay. Doesn't sound right, huh? Okay. So there's this butylated hydroxytoluene. See, chemists and chemistry people, they can play with chemicals. Put them together, make it so that they, you know, they kind of work out together. As long as they don't explode. Flammable products are, you know, we know what's flammable. Okay, so if they mix them, they mix certain groups with certain groups, like you have a benzene ring with a hydroxy molecule attached to it. Okay, so what does it do? Does it attenuate? Does it make it a little better? Perhaps. But there's still toluene, and I don't like toluene. Anyhow, so BHT is in these breakfast products. In case you like Cocoa Pebbles or shredded wheat or mini wheats, frosted, whatever they are. How about BHT? It is an antioxidant. It helps to preserve the food so it doesn't get oxidized, it doesn't turn color. Okay, so they've decided that this was going to be a great idea. But studies by the International Program for Chemical Safety, they show that there is toxicity present, okay? And so I just want you to know this, okay? Because if you don't, you don't. You're just walking around eating your frosted mini wheats with milk and eggs and coffee, and you think nothing of it. This is another one. BHA, butylated hydroxyanisole. It's another butylated product. It's nothing to do with beauty at all. And it is a potential carcinogen deemed a potential carcinogen by the NIH, the National Institute of Health. But it was deemed a grass by the FDA. FDA pushes it through. So again, if something is labeled as a possible human carcinogen, would you want to be eating it? Think about that. Now, if you have your phone and you are on airplane mode, which I hope you are, you can still take pictures. So if you want to take any photos of these slides, go right ahead. But this is what again, the industries are not going to tell you. You have to do your homework. If you're not doing it and you're just assuming that you can pick this stuff off the shelf because it's on sale and your kids like it, or you like it, you've got to think twice, or maybe 3 or 4 times, okay? So please be aware of these 3-letter things. Anything with 3 letters, be a little suspicious, okay? Here are some more lovely ingredients that you may have seen on labels, but may not have seen on labels. For instance, this last one here, this pointer doesn't work, unfortunately. I don't think so. But this, the last one here, you're not going to see on any label anywhere, really. Any food, you're not going to hear. But you will have it on the label of the Roundup. It is not going to be in any of your food labels. And my friends, it is in most of your food. Yeah. So there are literally billions of tons of this product being sprayed on commercial agricultural lots. And I mean, everywhere. And I can't say this enough, you know, as long as we don't say anything and we keep buying this product, there are people who I know are still picking this up, not knowing what it is. I said, you've got to be kidding. At this point, if you don't know how Roundup, or I'm going to say it, Roundup is really destroying the soil and the water and the food and human beings and animals and insects, everything. It really needs to be known. But it's, you know, it's like, whatever, you know. I just use it on my lawn. I got to get rid of those pests, or I got to get rid of those weeds, or whatever the heck it does. It's cidal. It kills. Anything that says cidal on it, don't use it. Why would you use anything that said the word cidal, bactericidal? You are just hurting yourself by doing that. If you have these antiseptic things, these hand sanitizing things, these wipey things, that all this is going to really be a detriment to all of us, to everything. It's all going into the septic tanks and so on and so on and so on. I can't say enough about this. So these other ingredients, you'll see them on many, many labels. Chips and crackers and breads and Coke, candies and Coca-Colas and you name it, all of that stuff, your soda, they are really not in our best interest. But they're there. And if you don't want it, you don't buy it. And if you would like it out of the system, you need to never buy it. We need to boycott, say no, no. You go to your register and you put an organic product in there, or you do something that's reasonable, and do not register any of the products that contain these items. Now that says, this was kind of cut off over here, it says in Singapore, you see this substance, azodicarbonamide, it is, you get fined if they find it in a food manufacturer, anybody trying to put it in there. You will get fined thousands of dollars. Okay? It's banned in Europe, UK, Australia. It is not banned here. Okay? So, again, these substances have multiple components to them. The azo means it's got a nitrogen component. Dicarbon has a couple of carbon atoms, and the other one, amide, is, again, another nitrogen-containing, a little different from azo. So it's like they're very complex molecules. They put them together and boom. This is what they put out on the market. Okay, now this is used in Pizza Hut cheese bread. Can you imagine? In a bread. So many of you have seen all these dyes which can alter behavior, can disrupt the immune system. You know, you're red, you're yellow, you're this, you're that. These kids are taking in a lot of candies and products with these food colors. All right, here I brought something also, another one. Right? Sugar crystals. How about that? How about a double jeopardy? You've got sugar and then you've got all kinds of dyes in with it, and then God knows what else. So these are things that, this doesn't even say, yeah, it's got confectionery, sugar is number one ingredient, and when you read a label, the first ingredient is the main ingredient. If it said sugar, this is what it is. But these other things are added. Confectioner's glaze, FD&C yellow, number 5. Cannabis wax, there's wax here. FD&C red, number 40. Lake, FD&C blue, number 1. FD&C red, number 40. Beautiful product. It's just beautiful, isn't it? Look at those colors. Okay. All right, so you get the idea. Now, high fructose corn syrup, this has basically, the food manufacturers are told now, because we know how bad it is for our hearts, our bodies overall, our hormones, our pancreas, diabetes. The incidence of diabetes and heart disease is huge. Thank you, high fructose corn syrup. Fatty liver. Fatty liver is another thing that many people have when they have their ultrasounds of their livers. They find out they have fatty liver. You don't want fatty liver. No, that's not good. So high fructose corn syrup, it is not to be put in products as of, I think, 2020 or so. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. So BHT, I think we saw that. Here are the foods containing. How about your Trident gum? How about that? You know, that's perfect. How many kids are eating this stuff? Anybody like wheat checks? Take a look at these ingredients. Now, all the vitamins that you see in the mineral, calcium carbonate happens to block arteries. That's a fact. That is an absolute fact. We have it in the science, in the literature. But how many people are looking at the journals? So calcium carbonate is an artery blocker. God knows how much you're really getting of these other things, and they've all been made in a lab. These are not coming from natural sources, by the way. Sure. Going to share this with your kids, right? Friends, neighbors. Go right ahead. That's the whole idea. So yeah, these things are from labs, okay? They are not what you think, and so don't think because it says wheat that it means something good. Yes, sir.
I read vitamins and minerals, and I think it's supposed to be something good for.
Right.
So
right.
Knowing that calcium carbonate, in fact, is not very good.
Not good for you, sir. It's not. So you don't want it. You just throw it away. You just you don't even pick it up, okay? And tell the customer service people to get it off the shelf. Right, so calcium carbonate should not be taken. Calcium carbonate is this ingredient in Tums. We all know that one, right? It's basically chalk. When you put chalk in your body, you chalk up your arteries. You don't want to take calcium carbonate supplements. That's not to say all calcium. Calcium carbonate is not what one wants at all. Not at all. So vitamins, again, they're synthetic. If they're not made coming from a whole food source, think twice before you have it. You know, like if you have a vitamin company that you like, you know, if it's coming from plants and you've done your little homework and you found out, well, that's one thing. But on these labels, these type of foods, we're talking synthetic. So I just want you to be aware of that. And then, of course, you know, you could look at your label here and how much of fiber and this and that it has in it. Doesn't have any trans fat, which is fine. Has no saturated fat, well, is plus minus. But the polyunsaturated fat in a small amount, that's not really very good. And has no monounsaturated fat. That would be a better fat to have in there. Zero cholesterol. Cholesterol, my friends, is not the enemy. So if something has cholesterol, it does not mean you're going to die of cholesterol disease. So don't worry too much about cholesterol. And more of that I'll go into. Okay, so yeah, I didn't mention the antifreeze. Propylene glycol is an ingredient in antifreeze. So it's in this Pop-Tart, Betty Crocker stuff, you name it, ice creams and so on. Bisquick. Bisquick, that's really another beautiful thing. Again, wheat, palm oil, the aluminum phosphate, dextrose, salt, okay? These are just, they're not very good. The sodium content in a third of a cup is 330 milligrams. That's a lot. That is a lot. And the sodium content of the salt in one day should not really exceed 2,500 milligrams. And that can be in one meal. Someone can have 2,500 milligrams of sodium in one meal. You just go to one of your Happy Meal places and all those, you know, these fast foods and all that. Or if you're heavy on the salt shaker and heavy on processed foods in your own home, you can be eating a day's worth in one meal. And many people do, and they eat 10, 12, or 15 grams of salt a day, which is going into not only toxic, but highly toxic ranges. So salt is another troublemaker. Anybody like Chick-fil-A? Here's what's in it. Number one ingredient I would not recommend to anyone to begin with. Chicken has its own problems. And again, you'd have to, if you're interested in my services or want to consult with me, I can tell you all about it. Anyhow, so yeah, monosodium glutamate, it's a very high salt. It's more of a, you know, really a, like high fructose corn syrup is to sugar, monosodium glutamate is to salt. So it's just too intense. It's why many places don't use MSG because of its effect on the body. There are people who have been brought to the ICU because of MSG, and I know one. Ate something that had monosodium glutamate in it, went to V-TAC. That is near death. Okay, so yeah, so wonderful ingredients. Soybean oil is not good for you. That is not to say soybeans are not good for you. They are, as long as they're organic. Non-fat milk and dimethyl polysiloxane, oh, that's wonderful. And yeah, so just take a look at these things and just be aware, because this is not exactly what you're going to get when you go to Chick-fil-A. They're not going to put this out there for you to look at. Okay? Anybody need this up, the slide still up? Good? Okay. Okay, this is another compound. Again, what are these things about? They have multiple ingredients in them, and they are not in our best interest. Okay, some of the big companies that you should be aware of who are selling inferior, substandard, unhealthy products to the public include, oh, hold on a second, let me just bring that back. Okay? And if you think that there isn't somebody behind somebody and somebody behind somebody and somebody behind somebody, it's all there. And they're dictating how you're living and we're all living. These companies right here, you see these two companies, I'm not going to say them out loud, but these companies own us, basically. Basically. They own just about everything, from airlines to cities, they own it all. Yes, sir.
Now, Wall Street thinks Kellogg is the most, what's the word for it? Honorable company.
Honorable. Wall Street? Yeah, because of, wow, if you're bringing in billions of dollars for the shareholders, all the Wall Streeters, of course it's a honorable company. It's the best, right? It's the best. Okay, so at the expense of human health and well-being, we have this. We have this, and we need to know this. Okay, because I'm not here to promote any of those things. So, on April 20th at 5:30 p.m., Diane, our dear Diane, wellness coach, is going to be talking and walking to Publix. And so if you're interested in going with her, meet at the entry of Publix next door, across the what do you call it, the fence, on the other side of the fence. Publix in Lakewood Plaza. If you're interested, Diane will be there. And I encourage you to go because it really does make good sense. And I just want to introduce you also to Jeanette. She is going to be here helping us prepare at the Cafe at Home. And we hope that everyone enjoys. It's going to be our new venture, and it should be exciting. It's really, we're putting the kitchen together, and she's so excited to be here. And we put together recipes and all that for all of your enjoyment. But to be eating consciously, we're going to try to emphasize that. We're not going to be carrying any of those other products here. No way. No way. To deliver, foster, and nurture conscious cooking and translate it into conscious eating. Okay? So it's very important for me to be able to do this for the community.
We appreciate that you are.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we read in passing, we've heard of an ingredient that you put into foods that is basically addicting, like into meat thins and chips with flavoring. Do you know what that ingredient is?
Yeah, I think most of these things are the sugar, the cornstarch, and these kind of things because they become addictive in and of themselves. You have that which the body is craving, so the body is craving that sugar, and if you're the type of person that makes, has a taste for, and it gives you that sense of, good feeling, it's a happy feeling, it's usually the sugar. Now, some of these products have other components that are along fat lines that will make it a little tastier, so some of the fats that they add can make it so that it's more pleasing and you'd want more of it, but it's usually the sugar content. There are very few products that people will be craving and becoming addicted to that don't have just those things, the maltose, the dextrose, the cornstarch, and some of the fats that they add make it tastier. So sugar is a very addictive substance, absolutely. That's usually the case. That's pretty much what I know about those products. Yes, did you have another question? Yes.
Yeah, I read that the food industry has 72 ways to name sugar.
72 ways to
name sugar.
Oh,
So
yeah,
for
yeah,
sugar,
absolutely.
there's
Anything,
71 different names.
anything with os is a
So
sugar,
that's
and that's
very difficult to know which one is
right.
sugar.
So anything with os or ol, ol, because that's a sugar alcohol. So you see things erythritol, sorbitol, mannitol, things like that. That's a sugar substance. But some of them have, like xylitol, they have, it's a sugar alcohol, they don't have the properties of raising blood sugar. So they kind of get away with helping you with your taste, so that you have the taste of sugar, so it's okay, but a lot of people can't take them. I can't take xylitol, for instance. It gives me mouth sores. I've tried it. I tried chewing a gum with xylitol in it, mouth sores. I brushed teeth with xylitol, mouth sores. And I can't take it at all. So sorbitol is another one. Some people can't take it because of sores. Usually it'll be evident in the mouth. Could cause serious diarrhea, upset stomach, things like that. So you've got to be careful with a lot of these sugar alcohols. Yes? Stevia is it's generated from a plant, and it's used widely in South America. It's not a bad product. The thing is, you want to get pure stevia, as pure as possible. You don't want that which has got other things added to it, because they'll add sugar to some of these products. I don't know, there's some... Erythritol, yeah. So they'll combine things together with it, and you'll see that. Often you'll see erythritol, stevia, even sucralose. Sucralose is an artificial sweetener that doesn't belong in anyone's mouth. No way. So stevia is okay. It's okay. You can use it a little bit of it. Don't use tons of it. Yes?
When I went to the health store, I see stevia,
Yeah.
white. I said, stevia is green.
Yeah.
And my brother bought a big bag of stevia. I said, Richard, read the ingredients. Sugar, stevia. I bought him a big bag, organic stevia. I said, read the ingredients, organic stevia.
Organic stevia, yes, exactly. Yeah, if really conscious about it, you want to get it in its natural color because a lot of these things are bleached. They're bleached white, so, toilet paper is bleached, bread is bleached, I mean, most of these things are colored for the sake of making them look nicer, cleaner, whatever, right? All right, so technological secrets. Let's move on a little bit from the food, because you get tired of talking about food after a while, right? Okay, so there's been no safety testing since about 1979. So, my friends, that's why I tell you, if you are holding a cell phone, you need to know what it is. And I can talk for hours on what it is, but I don't have hours here tonight. So, this topic is a tremendous one, and you need to know at least the following. Your 5G phone has not been safety tested by any means, by the FCC, the industry itself. No. Dr. Deborah Davis from the Environmental Health Trust organization, I have great respect for this lady. She helped ban cigarette smoking on airlines back in probably in the 1970s when people were still smoking on airlines. So that's done. But Dr. Deborah Davis and team from EH Trust sued the FCC and won. They won a case because their argument or the complaint was that the FCC was not, again, that three-letter federal, the communications source is not and did not do its due diligence to check for the safety on biological systems of these phones, all these cellular devices. So, again, 1979-ish, they put a dummy with gel in its head and maybe the 2G phone, early generation, said, okay, it heats up the plastic, it'll heat up a person's head, okay, we're done. That's pretty much the end of testing. Would you accept that if with a product that you're holding in your hand that has the capacity to cause cancer? And it does. Because these things, they go up to the ears, and they were doing it, the cancer was happening back in 3G and 4G, before 5G. On the ear, in the pockets, breast cancer, following the line, the antenna of the phone, found case reports. Surgeons are like, wow, this is real, cause and effect. Right? So you need to know this. If you don't, I'm telling you, I'm calling them out. You need to know this. It's important for your health, the health of your loved ones, the health of your grass, your plants, your bees, your birds, your trees, everything. The pollinators are going away. The navigation skills of the pollinators and the birds. Once these animals are extinct, these species are extinct, we're done. We are done. We become extinct. This is microwave technology that you have. You need to know that. What is a microwave? Have you ever tried putting your head in a microwave? People are wearing them on their wrists, wearing them in their ears. It's got to be known. And you have to know when to say, I'm not doing this, or limit, or turn it off. You've got to know this. Otherwise, you won't realize what it's doing to your physiology, your chemistry, why you feel the way you do. Why does your arm tingle when you hold that phone? Does anybody have that experience? Tingling, fingers burning. It gets hot, things get hot. Your heart may be palpitating. Your head is not clear, foggy, loss of concentration, not able to think straight. Wonder where that's coming from. I'm getting old. That's not the answer. That is not the answer, because we've got very healthy nonagerians and centenarians and people above 100 who have their brains in order, but they're not using these things. and they don't have Wi-Fi in their house. And when it is put in the house, then they can start getting confused and their brains start to get scrambled. But, you know, young people here, you're young, you're all young. You have a life ahead of you. We've got the young technologists back there working with technology all the time, and they know, they hear me. My son, he's there to protect, he wears his little EMF shields. He knows. He puts his phone in airplane mode regularly, so I can't get in touch with him. But we get in touch with each other, it's okay. Call me on the phone with the wire. Keep your wired phones. Hold on to it and get these carriers to work for you. Don't have them dictate to you. When they dictate to you, that's it. And it's happening. The spectrum and all this, they're all saying it's 5G and nothing else. I'm not accepting that. So I'd rather go without. I'm into walkie-talkies. How about you? Biological cell function is a real deal. Dr. Martin Pall, and I'll say his name 3 times, Martin Pall, P-A-L-L, Martin Pall, P-A-L-L. Professor Emeritus, Washington State University. This man really taught me something. Not that I went to Washington University, but I have listened to him and I hear him loud and clear. He is a professor, chemistry, biology, physics. He walks around with undergarments to protect himself against radiation. I believe he lives in Canada now. He's retired. But he has said some very, very profound stuff about this technology. And he said, any country who uses or whose leaders use 5G is crazy. They're crazy. They're absolutely insane. Because 5G technology has been used by the military. It still is being used by the military, and they're going to keep going. And God knows what's going to happen if we keep allowing these cell towers and these phones to proliferate and these generations to keep going higher and higher. Sorry, I don't accept it.
What can a person do to tell if they're getting some of that radiation or not? How do you know?
You get yourself an EMF meter. I don't have my meter here. Exactly. So if any of you have not heard of these things, you want an EMF meter. Okay. I have one. I actually left it in my my car. Safeliving.com is one company, which you know, but that's one. There are a number of them. If you go to ehtrust.org, EHT.org, right? EHTrust. That's a site where you can get a lot of this information. I recommend it. You can do drop downs. You'll find the science. You'll see the dangers. You'll see what's been happening in as far as what's being passed. The victory that was won by the EHTrust in court when they said you're not doing safety testing. And I just saw another article that came out, and it said that the FCC is stalling, dragging its feet. They're not moving. They've been told to move because it was deemed by the judges that the FCC was just making decisions that were arbitrary and capricious on all the cellular technology. Like, you don't know what it's doing to the people because Dr. Deborah Davis brought forth the evidence with her lawyers, and they won that victory. But again, it's a victory, but we haven't won the war. You know, it's maybe a small battle victory, but we've got to win the war here because we're in for a lot ahead of us, you know. So children, because they're so active, brains are extremely active, and our brains are really water-packed. We have a tremendous amount of water in the brain. When the children have it near their heads, that goes right through their brains. Behavioral problems, altered cognitive function, loss of concentration, headaches. If you're having regular headaches or your child is having headaches, guess what? It's not coming out of nowhere. It's coming from cellular technology. Learn to turn off routers and Wi-Fis and everything in your house. Just why do you have to have it there? That's why I ask, why? Wi-Fi, why? Why must this be? Okay? It's not a small matter. The surveillance that's going on, I can't begin to tell you. I'm sure you're aware of it. Yes?
I noticed locally there's a lot of younger children that commit suicide or fall
Yes.
into suicide.
Yes.
Is this how it's affecting their brains?
It's affecting their brains.
Like, how does that?
Well, again, here it's very chaotic radiation. This is pulsatile radiation. It comes at the brain like very, very erratically, and it so it causes an erratic, altered. It can cause an altered brain, and the more that they're around it, the more that they're going to lose that capacity to really control themselves. So people will lose control. So control of behavior is going to be lost, or people get depressed because they kind of, their brains become dull after a while. And or if you're not pinged on your phone again and again, that, you know, again, it's addictive, and the dopamine receptors like that, it gets very addictive, and you like the satisfaction of somebody calling you or texting you and whatever, you know, so there's a lot of that. And then you've got the teenagers, as you said, the children, they become very sensitive, you know, to these things on the phone. So if something says that, you know, you're a jerk, I don't like you, you're ugly, you're fat, blah, blah, this, that, people will take it very seriously and do damage to themselves. Yes, that is what happens. There are messages, subliminal and overt, that are going on all the time. This is technology that's going right straight through the brain. And the latest, the problem at hand now, even complicating it all, is the injection of these materials that have happened over the past 2 or 3 years that have also been part of this phone stuff, altering the brains, passing into the blood-brain barrier, the BBB, the blood-brain barrier, and causing disruptions. You know, so that the combination, not good, not good. So these are really troubles that we need to solve, resolve, and get on board right away with. All right, we'll go over to pharmaceutical secrets, and here we go. All right, let me just go back to pharmaceutical secrets. Okay. This is the story, folks. What's going on right now in current time is unprecedented. And it's just continuing. It's continuing that this experimentation is at the point where people must rebel, must get up and say no, no more. There are violations of codes going on every day, and everywhere. And we have to be not only alert to it, we need to act. We need to say no. Drugs are coming through and pass through without proper testing. There have been many drugs that have had to be recalled because of toxic materials and or the devastation that they've caused onto the population. What's going on right now, again, unprecedented, and I can't say enough about it, and again, I'm not going to have this as a forum where I'm going to start getting upset. I want you all to be aware of the happenings. I'd like to point out a few references that if you would take them down or pay attention to them, if you don't already know about them. Again, I'll write a few down here. I didn't put them all on the slides. So if you want to know more information about what is going on in the pharmaceutical world, the tech world, the food world, you really need to see some of these websites. So there is chd.org, which means Children's Health Defense. Defense, D-E-F, I can't spell. Children's Health Defense.org, okay? This is truthful news. I know a lot of people are right now skeptical and they don't know who to trust. I'm on this one. Not that I'm part of it, but I support chd.org because there is so much information that they will present to you, and with the backing of an attorney by the name of Robert Kennedy Jr. I can't say enough about this man. He is here to do good for us, and I'm hoping that he continues on, and with the legacy in his family. I know it's not a good one, kind of mixed, but the man wants to help us. And he's suing left and right for us on our behalf for the sake of everything that's going on currently in the past few years, and he even gets into other things, the drugs industry. Of course, there's Mercola.com. Definitely worth your time. I'll put that EHTrust here, .org, that's another one, that I mentioned before. So these are, good references, and Mercola, I can't say enough about Joe Mercola. He has been totally and completely bashed, but he's risen above, and he has really come forward, and he has fought his way back to make sure that the public gets the right information and is informed. And I do follow him. I've met him in person, amazing guy who has withstood so much bashing and garbage that they've tried to take him down because he's trying to give you the truth about so many things. So please be aware of these sites. The medications that many people are taking don't have really important info in their package inserts, and people aren't asking questions. You must inquire. Please ask before you take. If a doctor says, I'm giving you this prescription, ask 20 questions before he can get out of the room. If you don't realize what you're getting yourself into. Now, there are some drugs that even the doctor himself or herself may not know all of the negative effects of it, because more and more things are being uncovered as we go along. When they see more and more in drugs like metformin, what it's actually doing. There are different drug categories. I can't begin to list the things that statins do to you. So. So these drugs were put on the market without your knowing what was behind the whole manufacturer and so forth. And I'll just tell you this, anybody who's taking a statin, I will caution you on it. And Dr. Dwayne Graveline, that's like spelled Graveline, was an astronaut physician who was put on a drug called Lipitor, and it took away his memory for at least 6 weeks. His wife and he had to, they had to figure out what was going on here. So stopped the medicine. Memory was restored. He had amnesia, right? So, but he couldn't remember a lot of things. And the following year, he went back to a physician and said, who told him, you need to be on this stuff. Kind of, twisted his arm a little bit, put him on it again. The same thing happened. So he's written books, and you should read them. One is called Lipitor, Thief of Memory, and the other one is The Dangers of Statins. And so Dwayne Graveline, a physician who you might be interested in case you have anyone or you yourself are on these drugs. Now, you've all heard of CoQ10, right? That was supposed to go into the statin drug when it was manufactured because it knocks down your CoQ10 level, which is vital to you. And they decided against it. Too much trouble, too much money, we're not doing it. So it's up to you to know to find out that CoQ10 is necessary. Right? So it's really sinister. It's nefarious as far as I'm concerned. So these things you need to be aware of. Let me get my clicker. All right. So how to decide what's best? Here's what I want you to take away. Safety and more safety. I can't say enough about safety. It is the number one word, the four-letter word that you need to be thinking about. Safe. Is it safe for me, my family, my kids, my dog, my cat, my bird, my fish? Avoid being coerced. Huh? Easier said than done, I guess. But we have to wake up and not be forced. Going forward, no forcing. Ask a lot of questions, as I've said. If you've been hurt, seek alternative care product, okay? And options. Know your alternatives. Use companies that are tried and true. Use those companies that will, that have been doing their diligence and have been conscious companies, okay? And integrative approach, that's where I generally go. That's what I've chosen. I realize it's important, and I realize that I have to hear your story. I need to be able to put things together in a fashion that would fit you. So everyone is unique. Everyone has their own ways and needs. It's not a cookie cutter medicine. No, everybody is different. Choose truth, purity, totally natural, and avoid negative consequences. And it's best to say no. Use organic, whole, homemade, traditional culture, whatever grandma and grandpa raised and picked from the field. That's the best stuff. Even if they're no longer, well, you should take what you've learned from them. Remember that stuff. It is really vital. So there are media that prove truth, and they're not usually, with three letters. So I've shown you a couple of these things. The Epoch Times is another one that I can consult if you don't know of them. EPOCH, I'll turn this around, Times. You could forget the New York Times, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, and that's my home state. Don't trust them either. And so examine what and where your resources are. If it feels right in your gut, if it feels right, okay. If it doesn't, change it. Keep your senses clear and free of propaganda. Join like-minded people who are also seeking answers. So turn off all media. That's probably the best way to go. Read a book written by a trusted thinker and problem solver. Okay? Anybody need to see this further? Okay. These are some references. I take the time to reference what I write and present. And if you have any questions, I'm pretty much done at this point. I want to thank everyone in the back for being there for me. Thank you all. Thank you, Mary.